Hello, everybody. We have another admin discussion today for our soul group. So today we have admins Betsy, Ed, Jeff, Justin, Niels, Maurice, Linda, and today we also have Trudy with us. So welcome, Trudy, into our little crazy group. It's good to have you, and today we have a few subjects that we would like to discuss. The main subjects is we're going to talk about the Keshe, what is it? Free energy device, I guess. And we're going to talk about Inelia Benz book. But before we go and do that, I wanted to first talk a little bit about the chakra system. And because it's been coming up in a lot of conversations, in all kinds of groups that we get involved in, and also in our Earth Soul group. So I wanted to, since I can't record a video about it on my YouTube channel, so we decided that we're going to have a little discussion about that here today. So I guess I'm going to go ahead and start on that, and I'm going to share a screen with this little, okay. So what I have in here is something that I thought it was very funny because I found this on the Bible News website. And this is just the chakra system colors. And so it is also includes, you know, the Merkaba field and all of that stuff. So one thing is that all religions sort of have the same basis for it. And so it seems like this 7 chakras or 7 heavens or the 3 levels in heavens that are also talking about, which are the 3 existence, and how that translates, and I've talked about that before, how that translates into our physical body is our mental body, emotional body, and our physical body chakras that we have. And remember those little circles that I had? So that's the 3 heavens or 3 levels of existence that are here within, that we carry within our physical body. Okay, that also relates to the cosmic mind, collective mind, and, you know, individual mind. Okay. But the interesting thing, it's about this drawing, is I want to bring attention, and I mean, we've talked about chakras before. We kind of know what they are. We know that they're all not, let's just say, not for the best of humanity. And it's not that all of those chakras are sort of, we don't need any of them, because we still do have that in living light, the 3 flames of creation. That when we express living light, there's 3 flames of creation, because it's externalizing, so it's got to go out. But what I want to bring attention to here is that separation barriers that you see on that picture. So the first one is the 2nd chakra, which is the orange in color. This is the barrier in our physical body that the Merkaba field goes through. So this is actually a frequency that runs against our natural flow. So this is how our 2nd chakra is even created. It is unnatural or inorganic, or how you want to say it, but it is unnatural. This is that veil of separation, okay? Because it's a separation barrier. That's what they talk about in Bible. Then they talk about a veil in New Age, because what I want to show here a little bit with this, that there is actually, you know, how Bible and New Age sort of match up and connect. And then the second one is the second heaven barrier. This is the sixth chakra, the pineal gland technology, the third eye technology. So that's also inorganic and unnatural, and it runs in opposite direction to the flow of our mind. This is what creates an unconscious mind. Because if you look at the three levels, the individual level, collective level mind, and then there is a cosmic, universal, or source mind that's the third level. But what happened with this barrier through our sixth chakra is the barrier that runs, that separates us from our cosmic mind, from source mind. And what it does, it creates that unconscious mind level. So our unconscious mind is actually within this pineal gland technology. That's what creates unconscious mind. And because this frequency is running against our natural flow, our natural mental body flow, what happens is, this is why we actually have loss of memory, and memory as it is that. Because if we are connected to our subconscious, which is behind the barrier, the subconscious, then we don't need to have memory, we have the knowing. So you don't have to have the memory. So this is the sixth chakra is also what keeps you attached basically to astral levels, because that's where it holds your mind. And so, Ed, do you want to share that other little picture that you just sent me?
Sure.
Okay, so in there you can also will see that the sixth chakra is this barrier, and that's where that triangle, that overlay triangle, goes over. So our sixth chakra is also inorganic.
Are you seeing it?
Mm-hmm. So, and then the second barrier, actually in here it shows that it's in between. It is actually the actual second chakra, and our actual six chakras are created inorganically. This is that dead consciousness that runs against the flow and creates that friction energy. And so this is why the second chakra is very important for, let's say, those that want to be in control, or those that are from the system. This is what they do. This all ties in together with the sexual abuse and all of that stuff. That's all because of this energy that's got to be a friction energy or a trauma. So we have two traumas. We have the physical body trauma and the veil of separation within our physical body, which creates the veil of separation from the planet we are on. And then our sixth chakra is creating, again, that friction reality, which gives our mental body that disconnect from source in our mental body. So anybody wants to add to this? Questions? Nope. Come on, Niels, I know you have something to say about that.
I have one question. I might have missed it in your explanation, but are you saying that you're saying the second, third, fourth, and fifth are basically all artificial? Well, I guess artificial is the word I choose. It may not be accurate, but you know what I'm saying. And is that what you're saying? or
No,
just the two?
well, the second
The second and the sixth.
yes, the second and the sixth is the veil
Okay.
that is within our body. It is, once that Merkaba overlay happened.
And what is the second?
The third one, the second is the orange. This is the.
But what does that correspond to in the body? I know where the
It's our sexual organs, and they say it is also connection to the planet and all of that stuff, and connection to, but it's a friction against our natural connection to the planet. So there is a friction energy that's happening because it goes in a different direction. So it's like an insert. So, or some people used to say, or would say that it's a corded chakra. It is always corded. Every person on the planet, I don't know how about right now, but every person on the planet used to have their second chakra corded.
Used to have their second chakra what?
Yeah, it has a cord to astral levels.
Oh, corded.
Yes.
I just didn't hear what you said.
Yeah.
So, the reason I don't have any questions because I'm still trying to process what you said. I understand intellectually all the stuff that you were sharing and the overlay, and I get a visual picture, and I mean, logically I get it. I am trying to figure out how that translates into our experience. Pineal gland, I get.
Okay.
The memory functions, I totally get that. And how that really dominates our consciousness and our awareness. The second chakra, the sexual organs, I guess I get it, but in actual experience, I don't know. Do you have any more insight on that?
Well, Trudy, you go first.
Well, my experience with chakras are that the second chakra is the sexual chakra, but it's the creation. It's the creative chakra. So, and then the sixth chakra is the pineal area. So it's creating this veil. So we have this veil between our thought process and our creative process. Do you get what I'm trying to say here? It's like this overlay that isn't organic, and it kind of separates us from our abilities. Like it's like this veil. Is that what is happening here?
Yes. Okay. Because it creates the veil or the friction energy, so it separates that creative process from in the physical reality. It's run through the second chakra, and then mental reality, it's ran through our sixth chakra. So it's like interception there, it's like a little something in there that steals that imagination. That's why until we break through this veil on our second chakra on the physical level through reconnecting to the planet and working on our grounding, this is what it does. It helps to break the barrier between the planet and the person. And so once we break that barrier, we break the physical level or the internal it is the internal veil of separation. And then our mental veil of separation shows as external because we externalize through the mental body. So this is creative process. So this is when I talk that when we work on grounding, what you do is you thinning that veil and thinning it. And so this way you can actually, through healing that, through connecting to the planet, and then working on healing your own mental body and peeling off the veil of separation here, then what you can do is you can create and manifest into physical because your veil is gone.
Clear, absolutely clear. Thank you very much.
Okay. Niels, you wanted to add something.
Yes, I do. I remember we talked about chakras a while back, probably a month ago, and you showed us a different picture. And at that time, you were stressing how the two chakras, the crown chakra and the root chakra, are facing open in the vertical direction. The one facing down, the other facing up. And the other 5 chakras are at 90 degrees and are on the horizontal plane. And they connect that way. And what I got from that at the time was that our natural connection is a vertical connection, that we don't connect. But now with what you added today, that of those 5 chakras, the 2 end ones are kind of like barriers, but the 3 in the middle, I think you said something about them being kind of representative of the collective. Are you trying to say something,
You are
Lily?
muted, Lily.
Yes, so it creates a barrier and a mirror because it runs in a different direction. So when you try to create, it takes it and then inverts it, inverts your creation with your thoughts and everything. It inverts, and so basically keeping you in the enclosed loop of those 5 chakras in between 2 barriers.
Okay. And so ever since we had that discussion, when I want to breathe in a way that I feel connected, I've been kind of drawing my breath from the very center, which would be around the 2nd chakra, is where I breathe from. And I just draw my breath vertically from below and from above. And then when I release it outwards, it just expands like a ball from my belly. Just like I'm giving birth, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually an incredibly wonderful feeling when I'm doing it. And that was from our last discussion. So I just thought I'd add that.
When you take that barrier out, you're actually, your third, somewhere in between 3rd and 2nd chakra is actually your 2nd chakra, your, which is yellow, which is sun. So when you express your creation, that's where you express it from your center, which is right here, which is the sun within, expresses the core within, expresses out directly. So, and that it just goes like a bubble.
That's what I was experiencing, yeah.
So that's what we call it, a spirit bubble, I guess. So it is, the living light is a golden light. So it's a more golden, not yellow.
Yeah, and that idea came from you saying that we're kind of pushing from the inside out to move the overlay outward, so that we express from inward and basically move it out.
Push it. Because the more we clear that, because we're also clearing ourselves from within out. So that's why, you know, as more layers we peel off, there's still that barrier, you know, and we haven't, and so the more we peel it off, the more we get the knowing, because the knowing is our subconscious. It has all the information of our collective humanity in there. This is where we connected on the subconscious level. So we don't, because what we have as a memory right now is just is broken friction, like a movie sort of type, like a cartoonish type of thing. You know, it's stills of frequency that are running through the timeline, through your timeline. So going through time. So it's kind of like, that's what, when we pull the knowledge and all of our information from the knowledge, that's where we pulling it from. But instead of that, if we heal from in, out, and clear that veil, we'll get to the point that this barrier or an unconscious mind will disappear. And then we're gonna have a direct connection to our subconscious mind, meaning collective creation and collective mind.
And then we won't need the memory that we think that we need right now, because it'll be, like you said just a few minutes ago, it'll be at our immediate disposal what we need to know when we need to know it. That's living in the moment. Also.
Instant, in the now moment, yes.
Yeah, that's a big point, Lily. Really is.
It is.
Okay. And for me, as an artist, you know, I also know a little bit about color mixing, you know, and the three primary colors is being red, blue, and yellow. So, you know, there's also the chakras that are sort of a lot more stronger, and because they're a primary color, and then there is mixed, like our heart chakra has an overlay over it. It's two colors overlaid. It's, you know, yellow and blue creates green. So, but that's, you know, that's my 4 years of art school. That has nothing to do with what we've talked about, but it still has a meaning though, to me. I look at it and it helps me right now. So I thought all those years in art school was just for no reason, but even now I'm using that knowledge because it helps me to confirm some things. So, but blue, yellow, and red are primary colors, and everything else is built from it. All the other colors. So you can't have other colors without it. And then what we have for a purple chakra, it's not even purple. It's not. I haven't figured out what our real chakra is. It could be, I'm not gonna say it.
I have.
Let me work that out first, because I don't want to say something that I'm gonna regret later. Okay, should we move on, or anybody has something to add?
I don't know if this is appropriate or not. But I'm trying to process this. It's kind of out of the realm of my experience. Mm-hmm. But something I have been becoming increasingly aware of, at least for myself, is the need to stay within my own world. My own personal, local experience. And the things that draw you out of that are, you know, so incredibly numerous. But we get, well, okay, for me personally, I am less and less following media and not even wanting to. And I know in our world, we learn so much from all the stories that circulate out there, and we want to go and you know, peruse them and glean this information and get that information and try to put it together and stuff like that. But I'm really having an aversion to doing that, because it just seems to draw me out of my world, and it occupies me mentally. But even if I come up with an answer, I'm still in my world, and it doesn't seem to affect it. It's just all mental. And I'm trying to relate this to your veils and your chakras and your awarenesses, and I thought maybe you could address that if that sparks anything. You're muted.
What is happening is, as we heal, we peel off, like you said, by expanding our own spirit bubble out. And then what is happening is the healing starts happening from within out. So you will come to the different layers of your own, of this barrier, of your own memory, or whatever, you know. Healing process is mostly healing the memory, okay? Because, and what is memory? Memory is astral reality. It is the barrier. It is the veil. So all of that you have to clear it, and you'll come to a different levels of it, but you still have to do it from within out. Like, you know, there's different levels to it. You may do your own healing in the process, that you're going to be healing the level of, let's say, Illuminati, control, cabal group, or whatever, but you still will reconcile all of that within your own mental body. Okay? And so, and you can resolve that and change that only for yourself. This is the change from within. You have to change your own point of view on that level, on that layer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And what on top of that, what you're saying is, when you get pulled into, instead of looking at it from within out on the situation, what happens is we get pulled into that friction energy, into that static energy, into that memory and knowledge that's attained through accumulating information, okay, accumulating data, which is an unconscious mind. And so basically, what is your memory of something? It is your conscious mind accessing and finding a piece of information in the unconscious mind. So it doesn't go beyond, it doesn't connect to subconscious level, to that holds all the truth. So we don't have that. So we have this barrier that holds all this knowledge. And so what you're saying is, when we get pulled in that and trying to figure out from that perspective, we're not doing ourselves any good. We're just creating more of that, what we cleared. We can create more levels of that. But what you're saying is, the more we do it from within out, and even if it seems so hard and you want to connect to that subconscious level and know it all, sometimes you'll peek through it, and then boom, this is what I say, like, you know, sometimes you just have the knowing about something, and it makes so much sense on so many different levels. It's because there is a point in there that you have broke through the unconscious knowledge that you had within this barrier. So that's just part of the healing. So this is how it applies to us, is for us to figure it out, how we can peel that off and heal that static energy, but how we can do it, like Neil says, from within out, how we can be that change that we want to be. Basically, we don't want to have an unconscious mind. We want to have conscious and subconscious connected and working in harmony with each other. So that unconscious is this barrier, is the part of our brain that needs to be healed.
Let me say what that means to me, and you tell me if you think it's right. You might want to stay unmuted so you don't forget.
Okay.
Okay, what that translates to me as when something enters into my world, I can deal, and it enters in such that I need to deal with it. I can deal with it from inside out. If I go looking for stuff all over the world, I'm immediately in a mental realm. And so anything I approach from that level is always just going to be on that outward level. And it's just going to be friction, and it's just going to cause a lot of stuff to keep us in the veil.
Yes, because that veil flows, let's just say, give this as an example, okay? It flows this way, okay? Let's say you hear it and floats. So the information flow goes this way. And so if you go into that level, and if you look at things from that same level, you're going to be on that same level trying to figure out what this is. But what I'm saying is, when you do it from inside, you do it at the 90 degree, and then you go look at it from a whole different perspective. You look at it for what it is, because you know this is in friction.
You look at it for what it is.
Yes.
What that translates to me as is what I was saying is it's affecting my life in a certain way, and I have to deal with it on that level.
Mm-hmm. Because you're also being a center person. What you do is you already on every day, you perceive everything in a very different way because you are on a different timeline. So everything that's happening around you is still happening. Is you just have a very different perception of what it is, because now you can see it clearly. It's like, remember in Matrix movie when he first when he looked at that mirror and it was broken and he couldn't really see himself, and then when it cleared out, something, I don't remember, it's been a while ago. Do you remember the mirror thing in Matrix movie? No?
Not really.
But I mean, that mirror become a mirror, a living mirror, and he touched it. It was like a plasma, but it was reflecting him clearly, because before that it was all broken. Okay, so that, to me, that sort of represents the mental level. When you look at the reflection into the friction energy, you know, it's going to be like rigid, broken pieces of the mirror. But then once you learn how to see it for what it is, you can see a much clearer picture of what that is. Because you're looking from a perspective of clear, unbroken mirror. You're looking at yourself into non-broken mirror from that perspective, from the center. So you can see it for what it is. It's not discarded or anything like that. This is only happens in unconscious mind, all that breaking down, that extreme, all of that. Because what is unconscious? It's part of our subconscious mind that is all broken into pieces, is running on in the friction energy, one against another.
Yeah, the one thing I know is that when you're trying to put things together on the mental level where all that friction is, there's no end, there's never any end to it. You never get an end result.
Yeah, it's almost like the rabbit hole keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any meaningful inner difference. But if you come from the outside in, every little step becomes something that becomes part of your life, and that can be built upon, and it takes you to another level.
No, yep.
Okay. I'm dry.
Okay, anybody wants to add anything?
I do.
Go ahead, Maurice.
I'm listening, and it's just falling right into place, because we travel around, and of course we're doing it too. We've been doing it, but you're describing the difference. The people we interact with are, with all of their highfalutin mentality, that's all the news media, all the professors we ever ran into, all the books we ever read, they're all of this friction energy, intellectual expertise, of which society and all of us as members of society have thought, wow, that's really wonderful. You know, you're brilliant, or, you know, you're a genius at this, that, or the other thing. But what that really is part of the intellectual layering of the matrix, or the AI, or whatever else we want to call it. We're all talking about the same thing. And yet, experientially, we all know, to one degree or another, that, well, the word is inspire. You feel inspired to do something. It didn't come out of your memory. It just came out of you, and you act on it. And then you look back and say, what was that? Well, that inspiration moment, no matter what it is, it isn't necessarily an artistic creation or a great genius idea that you can make $10 million out of. Just a spur of the moment thing, the inspiration feeling. We've all noticed it along the way. And that's what I think you're talking about, is what it's like not to be caught in the lateral mental programming, which you and Ed were just talking about. And that's kind of my recapitulation of what I've been hearing, and that makes a hell of a lot of sense to me. And sense, I don't even know what the right word is anymore, but it's the word that we use to understand each other. So I just wanted to add that as kind of a putting it together from what I'm seeing. Okay, and I'll let somebody else talk. That's for sure.
Okay, nobody wants to add anything about chakras or anything. So let's just sort of state, since we're recording this and we're gonna post it for other people to hear. So I wanted to sort of state that, where do we stand on the chakras? We sort of understand how it is part of the matrix system, but at the same time, we can look at it for what it is, and without judgment, and from that 0 point to say, okay, this is what happened to you, this is where we got interfered with, this is what happens here and what happens there. That we're not saying this, that, oh, you know, just go and find somebody tomorrow to clear your chakras because, you know, you have the matrix system running through it. Well, it is what it is, but we can figure this out. And the more we heal, the more we start operating within the core of us, from our spirit, in integrity. When you do that, you act from love and from integrity, your body and your spirit will find a way to heal you. And we talk about this with Jeff just yesterday, how when you are on this organic path of healing, things just float in, and the pieces will float, and they will even fit themselves together. You don't even have to go through that mental loop of and doing that mental gymnastics to figure it out how to heal. What you need to do is have pure, honest intent and act in integrity of your spirit. And then the ways how to heal yourself, they will show themselves so clearly. And I'm talking about this from experience. And let's not even consider this as, is it fear or is it not fear? Is it extremely positive or is it extremely negative? We talk about right here from a 0 point, meaning that we are looking at it from a 90-degree perspective. What that was. We now know what is this, what's the opposite of that. Okay, if this fear, you know, if gives you fear, there's something opposite here. There's opposite of fear, that love, whatever that love that they say. It's there, but it's one against another. How do we bring that together to where that what we fear, we can love? Because we know that we can't get rid of energy, because everything is energy. All we can do is transmute it and change it into something else. And now we know we're going to go and talk about this, how there is a third, completely different timeline, that it's not positive or negative. It is Earth's timeline, meaning that we can't get rid of energy. What we do is we take positive and negative, we bring it together, and those two work together as one. We put them into a healthy way of being and healing all of that and bringing into oneness. We can't, like, I think we already talked so much about this that we cannot be in friction ourselves. You know, that victim and victimizer mentality, it's just, I am not in it, and I'm not, no matter what, I don't want to step into it. You know? So some people, if they're incapable to perceive, your neutral point, or where you are and what you're trying to create, and how you are not taking one side or another, but you're trying to figure it out, how to create from center, how to create from love, how to create from human experience. That's neither of those. It's a whole different thing.
So I'll add something about chakras. I decided to bring my chakras to 0 point. Listening in conversations with Lisa and Inelia, if I'm not using my chakras because I don't understand what they are, somebody else will. I think that's just a fact. So in dream time, Spirit gave me a little lesson. I'm an IT guy, so I imagined when you use Windows Task Manager to see all the processes running. Initially, you see, in my metaphor, conscious processes. But if you click the little button below, you can see all processes. That reveals all the subconscious programs that you're running that you're just not aware of. So in dream time, I decided to right-click my chakras and disable them, and then put a spirit lock on them. And I thought that was good. I woke up, I kind of remembered that dream, but then my day went wonky. And the next night, same dream time dream, and I realized that subconsciously in dream time, I was disabling him, but I had to do that in consciousness too. And once I woke up, I remembered the dream the second morning, and I went, yes, Spirit, I want to lock this disabled chakra program until I know what it is. Nobody else is using it. And I seem to benefit from that. So that's my experience until I know what's going on.
Can
Thank
I
you,
comment on that? Again, and this is just me, but I always have to translate things into what is my experience. How do I feel it within, or just experience it in my world? And if you try to do something with, like, I'm really not that aware of my chakras, although I don't know how aware I am or not, really. It's not something that I experience on a daily basis. Although, well, I can't even say that. Maybe I do, but it's not like what you see all over the internet, where I see all these colors and circles and entry points or stuff like that. It doesn't translate to me that way. It's just, but I do get certain sensations and stuff like that. But if I was to try to turn them off in a dream, or just by looking at a picture and saying, okay, I want to turn all that stuff off, I don't see how that would have any effect. But if I was to experience in my day a manipulation or an intrusion, I could deal with that, which is like what I felt Jeff was saying when he did it, when he was conscious. Does that translate to you, Jeff?
It does on a level. Through HK, I'm just I'm just more aware of interferences. And I want to plug all the interference holes, ports that I can until I clear my subconscious.
So when you become aware of that interference, it's in your conscious life, right?
It is, but you don't know where it came from because of Lily's example of the chakras, that inorganic veil. You don't know what your subconscious is creating, or we don't know right now. We're running so many programs, and
Yes,
we're
because
unaware of them.
Yes, because this veil is actually, it's messing with part of our subconscious mind. It is so it is interfering with our subconscious mind. It's like or interface between our subconscious and conscious.
Okay, but what I'm getting at is, okay, so maybe we have subconscious things that are affecting us, but we have to deal with them at the level that they are affecting us.
Mhm.
It's not the subconscious that we're dealing with. We're dealing with the effects of it in our conscious life.
So what is happening is with the way we heal is something comes up in your conscious reality. It brings up because when you set an intent to heal this barrier and get rid of the programs, well, you'll have to look at them to change them, to get rid of them, as you say, or, clear that, heal that part. So what we do when it comes right in our face, we look at it for what it is from the 0 point, which we can see it clearly what it is. And then you can clearly say, oh, okay, this program here is doing this and this and this and this to my reality.
And you're experiencing it.
Yes.
So,
And then you say, whoa, this is, so you actually making that unconscious, which is this friction energy, into conscious. You actually consciously recognizing what that program is doing. And once you consciously recognize, then, and you look and you do that from 0 point, meaning from that whole different perspective of looking at it for what it is, what you can do then is you connect the conscious to subconscious that matches. So
and
now
yeah.
that interference or that static from that energy is removed and it flows between subconscious and conscious mind.
And maybe in HK terms, when you realize it's an effect in consciousness, that's kind of the trigger. But where was it created from? Probably the subconscious. So you need to get down to the subconscious.
Because you know how our creative power has been stolen, and our creation is stolen by manipulating part of our subconscious by creating this friction flow with the invasive energy that is not ours. This is why people remember so much more about being on a different planet than they remember being on this planet, is because that unconscious part of them is not their history right here. It is inserted, overlaid over soul. Because I also, at someday I want to talk about what are artificial souls, what are shallow souls, and what are human souls. Because there's different kinds of souls right now on the planet. There's 3 kinds of souls that are on the planet right now. And so it depends the kind of soul you have. If you are completely an artificial soul, all you're gonna remember, the more artificial your soul, the more you're gonna remember your alien memories or this consciousness memories that are not yours. Can be pulling you into that, because this is what they're trying to attach to our subconscious mind. This is where the invasion is happening. It's our subconscious mind. So, but yet we're still created, just because when it came out and then it was redirected and we unconsciously created something then that we didn't really want to create. But because of that interference that took us, but it was still our power, our creative power that we used to create this. This is what I'm saying. This is how, by clearing this, and completely taking control and reconnecting our conscious mind with our subconscious, where there is clear flow, meaning you know and you have access to a collective mind and cosmic mind. And that's where you have all your knowing. There would be no need for accumulating knowledge. Because if we have access 24/7 to our subconscious, to our dream time, our real dream time, then we'll know everything there's to know. But that redirection and whatever that invasion does to us, to where it creates through us what it wants. So it adapts to us as a creators, and then projects at us thoughts that are sort of inverted or tricky, or like, you know, all the spelling in the world with languages and all of that stuff. It's all an attempt for us to blind us to the fact that our creative consciousness and our creative power is used to create what we create on the planet. And then they tell us, well, that's what we created. Human beings are assholes like that. That's what we created here, you know. But all of that, you know, all of that manipulation, that's what we need to get rid of, because, and taking responsibility and saying, okay, now I see where the manipulation happened. And so now I choose to consciously connect to my creative power and create that what I want to create without interference, meaning your unconscious level of mind is going to disappear.
Could I add something here? I think what Ed is talking about is the focus on the media and everything that's going on in the world, that when we buy into it, consciously or subconsciously, we do help create it. So it's a matter of what do we want to create. So I've been drawing away from paying attention to all the media as well. We do create from both the outside in and the inside out. And we want to be creating from the inside out. And I think I brought this up at another point, that music is something that we're all exposed to, and it can be creative. If you're listening to a specific song that you really love and you put a lot of emotion into it, the actual lyrics can become a subconscious program and manifest out in your external world. So I think that's what Ed is trying to get to, correct me if I'm wrong, is that it's important that we be vigilant about what we allow into our conscious minds. That was basically it.
Yeah, that was a point I was trying to make, Linda. My latter endeavor was to figure out how to deal with this in our experiential realm. And I still have a couple of questions, but I think, Lily, I would, unless anybody else has something to add, we could probably go on. I could probably, until I get clear on this, I could probably go on for a long time.
Yeah, I think we sort of went off topic with this, but
sorry about that.
Which is a good conversation. We do this all the time. I do it every time. So that's good, because we probably needed this conversation. Maybe we should revisit this again, because it is a little complicated, you know, because it's not real energy that's invaded us. So it's this invasive energy is so it's so unnatural to humanity that it took them so much time and efforts and how many harvests to try to synchronize the dead light frequency with our mental body. I mean, we see to this day how much it is done to bring those into a connection. And it is still very difficult because here we are talking about it. So it is a big subject. It is complicated subject because, you know, it took 4 harvests of whole humanity to try to figure it out how to manipulate our mind to that point to where we will accept this consciousness as our own.
And like you just said, and here we are discussing what we're discussing.
Exactly. So it is a very valid subject. It is very complicated, and there is a lot to it. So, but right now we're just gonna move forward. So I think we should start with Keshe Technology, in which you guys, I have nothing to say about that because I don't know much about it, but I would love to hear everybody's opinion of it.
Go ahead, Ed.
It's
Well,
like, oh no.
yeah, I'm not sure I'm the one to talk about it. I can respond quite a bit. I kind of feel a little bit that I hold a different opinion than many other people on Keshe. However, what I wanted to point out about that is that I haven't drawn any conclusions. And that's hard, you know, when I post stuff or I say stuff. I'm trying to be as aware and observant as possible without allowing falsities to enter in. And what I see happening a lot is that people are making decisions based on information that's third hand or emotional based, reactionary, and which is okay. You know, for me though, I am trying to get a handle on it as much as I can from my own personal experience with it. I posted some things in the our Facebook group, and I wondered if anybody had any reaction to those things I posted, or if anybody even read it.
I read it.
No. Oh.
I read it, and I know Niels read it and thought it was really good. You pointed out a lot of, you know, a lot of different things in there. Niels, do you want to talk about what you thought was
Let me go here. Oh, sorry, Betsy, were you done? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Or Niels, did you have something to say?
I didn't really have a whole lot. I'm just wondering, Ed, are you planning on getting yourself one of those little Keshe wands or not?
A Keshe what?
Those, the little wand, the little plasma wand?
Oh, no. I want to understand the technology. I may participate in actually creating the GANs. I think that would be a beneficial thing. That's a very hands-on thing. That's a very experiential thing. I think that would be a good exercise for myself.
Okay.
But what I wanted to point out about the Keshe stuff, one of the things I addressed was Lily had a question about it being accessing AI plasma or natural living light plasma. And I think that's a valid thing to figure out. What I'm seeing is, I don't really know what AI plasma is, but I know that the artificial intelligence and the control of our environment is using nanotechnology, like was it all the stuff they spray in our atmosphere, and it's just everywhere, and it's in our bodies, and it's controllable by electromagnetic forces. And I see that very easily as manipulation and what you might call the AI interference, because that can be used for that. and it interferes directly with our real human expression, and it can be used to manipulate us and cause us to do things and cause sickness and all of that stuff. What I see with the Keshe stuff is that it is much more natural, and I cannot say definitively that it's accessing the living light, as Lily put it. However, it may be. The other thing I wanted to point out is that you have to be able to differentiate between the technology and the person. And you have to do this with all information. Any information, you can look at a person and make a decision that he's coming from left field. And then if you do that, and that's your mindset or your awareness, all the information is colored by that. What you need to learn to do is evaluate information as it comes into your reality based on your experience of truth within. And then you have something to compare it to. And when you do that, then even if somebody you intensely dislike or think is so far out there, they may say something, all of a sudden you go, oh, that's really truth. And you have to be able to see that. And the flip side of that is true as well. Somebody that you love and respect greatly, they say something and you go, that doesn't fit. You have to be able to keep that awareness if you're going to come to a really inner decision for yourself. And I think that's vital with this Keshe stuff right now. I mean, you want me to talk about specifics? I posted a lot of that specific stuff. The things I see that I think are pointing to a natural state of technology is just how I see the development of the components of, for instance, this what's it called? The Keshe plasma, the power. Well, what you guys are calling the free energy machine. And I want to point out that the free energy machine is not really the focus of Keshe. He is kind of capitalized on this free energy thing because that's what everybody responded to. And it's very interesting right now what's going on is because he's kind of belittling this whole power machine thing, because he said, look, you guys focus so much on that. And so that's what we taught and that's what we gave you, but you missed the forest for the trees, and just the last couple of days, he is wanting to move on and actually get into how to use plasma. And so there's actually some really, I think, some critical information going to come up in the near future that will help clarify things. And I'll try to keep you apprised of that. Yeah, Trudy. Unmute.
Yeah, just to kind of add, because something's coming up, and it's actually from the book, but when you're talking about the free energy machine, my feelings on the Keshe is that the technology behind it is actually a distraction from us, because we're the free energy machines, as humans are. So it's actually, when we get so technical and so involved with trying to figure out Keshe's technology, or Tesla's or whatever it is, it really distracts us from our organic human free energy machine that we are, that we need to realize how to use properly.
I totally agree with you, and actually that was probably my initial reaction to Keshe. The one thing you find is when you start to get a hands-on with it a little bit is it's not all technical, and it's not all scientific, and it is very much in the experiential realm. the thing about distracting you from yourself is actually been brought up quite a bit by Keshe, because the end result is that the human being can do all this himself. The machine, the free energy machine, like I said, was an offshoot, because that's what the population and everybody listening seemed to really get excited about. So maybe that's where the collective is at. I don't know. That in itself, though, if indeed this is a connection somehow to the real plasma, the living light, as Elise says, that it should be a positive exposure, and it should bring people closer to the reality of that relationship where they can do it themselves. At least that's the intent that I see. Now, whether that's going to happen, I don't know. I mean, in reality, we haven't really seen anything. And that's another thing, is everybody is actually still waiting to see something.
And that's another point from the book, is if this was something not based out of fear or what was the book, Fear or Trauma, it would go viral organically. And this is still a very small subset that's even knows about Keshe. And so that's interesting in itself.
I have mixed feelings about that. I actually am thinking of that in a way that it's indicative. That to me is kind of proving to me that it's something different than your run-of-the-mill introduction of new technology. Because what you see in the world is that something is advertised and it's put out there and it's blasted and it does go viral. What I'm seeing here is that the whole emphasis is on not doing that, but teaching the understanding of the technology so that each individual who wishes to can make use of it. Is he giving it to corporations? Yes. Is he giving it freely to governments? Yes. Is he giving it freely to individuals? Yes. He's doing everything. And you still don't see it going viral. But I think there's reasons for that. But I could be wrong. Yes, Trudy, go ahead. Just keep your mic off and chime in. You don't have to raise your hand.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about this too. It's like, it's the consumption model again, right? And Keshe's machine his technology is actually kind of like a transitional stage out of the consumption model then, right?
That has been postulated, yes. Again, we have to wait and see. But,
Yeah.
but the whole intent, yes, is to completely nullify this whole central emphasis, and people just, the consumption model is really out there. And that's not good.
So maybe we, the creators, as we tap into our, as Lily's saying, like with the new information about the chakras and continuing to clear and heal and get rid of the programs, we'll be able to actually, kind of losing it here, but go through that and, I don't know, like break that consumption in ourselves. And
absolutely. Again, my opinion is we're all at different levels. I know Betsy brought up in one of the chats that any kind of a crutch is kind of a blow at us depending on spirit, and our spirit doesn't need that. And I definitely know our spirit doesn't need that kind of a help, but I think as a total human being, we're very far from being totally sufficient on spirit right now. I don't know how long it's going to take. I kind of think it's going to be a long process.
Yes, we were very broken, right? So we were very sick
Yeah.
as a creators
Yeah.
I see it as
of reality.
a
So
stepping
we might
stone.
need a little help to get better. So it could be transition, something that could be useful in transition. But what I'm figuring out right now and what I'm seeing is that a lot of stuff, and especially watching a little bit of free energy community and things like that, people have all of that stuff, but if things are out of integrity, they seem to just fall apart. It doesn't stick. It's the way it used to stick. Some of these ideas would be pushed on humanity and everybody would go after it. The fact that it is questionable by so many people, you know, people not just blindly saying, oh, this is it, that gives me some hope, I guess, that maybe there is something to it, you know. But I'm seeing more and more that anything that is out of human integrity, that is with some kind of twist in it, it just all eventually falls through, reveals itself for what the real intent is behind it. And I think with this, it's going to happen the same way. It will reveal itself because in our reality now, we are in revelation time. You know, and because Bible's inverted, what's supposed to happen was supposed to happen through genocide, was Genesis again, but it would be the new human that is fully invaded by consciousness. So we would go through another cycle of Bible. That's why Genesis and genocide are pretty much same word, because the only new cycle this invasive frequency or this consciousness has, the intent is to take our bodies over. So if it can't, it's going to try to wipe us out and then, you know, take, you know, keep some of us for DNA and you know, restart the experiment again. So, well, they already started that. The problem is that they haven't wiped out the rest of the humanity yet. Well, they're working on it with all these wars and everything. But right now we're in a whole new different time for everybody. Because where we are right now, we weren't supposed to be where we are. So this is so new for all of us. But at the same time, you know, but yet there's people that are unaware of this change, that we're in a different timeline. But on this timeline, this new timeline, it's got to be in integrity. And anything that's going to try to get on it without integrity, I doubt it's going to last long. That's my opinion about it, even though I said I wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, did you say that? I was really looking forward to you saying stuff because you had some good questions about that living light stuff. I think that's a very valid thing, but I absolutely agree that and to be honest with you, I do see quite a bit of integrity. Other people may disagree with me, but I've listened to hours and hours of the teachings, and I see some of the people who are integral. I'm getting a better handle on the people and the teaching and stuff like that. But the one thing you said is that it will reveal itself. And that's one thing I wanted to point it out, is that you don't need to make a decision on this, either one way or the other, because if you do, you're probably not going to continue to be able to evaluate it properly.
Okay, but we did agree that at this point we're gonna, you know, at least state it out loud what we think of it right now. I know, Betsy, you had a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
Do you want to say it too? And then we can agree that we're not going to have a full decision because, and we're not here to give a decision on to say this is what it is or whatever. This is just our opinions, right?
Right. My take on the whole thing is when we first came into, or when I first came into awareness about the Keshe Technology, I went to the webpage, the Keshe Technology, just the initial webpage, and probably scanned through half of it or so. And I know you guys have heard me say this before, but immediately what popped into my head was Wingmakers. And I know you've heard me say that before, the Wingmaker technology. I had read the Wingmakers like a good 2 years ago. And I know there's two different versions. I'm not really sure what version, I have, but I got the gist of it anyway. And I know that in the original version or what I read 2 years ago, that they were very big into blank slate technology, which is time travel. And the Labyrinth group was running that with 15 being the CEO of the planet, etc. So I said that, and then I was outside walking with the dog, and I was, contemplating it again, and I keep really thinking that this image and this message that I'm getting is from my spirit, that it's Wingmaker technology. Now I know that the Labyrinth group and the ACIO are different from the Wingmakers, because the Wingmakers are supposed to be our future selves. I don't know if I agree with that have come back to institute this or not, but my spirit keeps showing me this and telling me that it's Wingmaker technology. And I have the picture in my head of the industrial complex, wherever they work out of, that's built in a mountain. It's very big, it's very huge. And yet at the same time, I don't know, how could I have made that correlation if it wasn't spirit, that it was Wingmaker stuff when I read Wingmakers 2 years ago, and it was more about time travel, and what I read a half of the page of the Keshe Institute. How could I make that connection unless it was my spirit actually truly telling me that this is what it was? So that's where I have a tendency to really think that it's something that they discovered somewhere along the line, something, the artifact that they discovered in those caves or whatever, and that it's being used because of in the torus field, you have the energy go out, and then you have the gravitational pull bring it back in. And there's something to do with the gravity, which is then, and I know Jeff was explaining it to me the other day, like gravity
is time.
Gravity is
that's
time.
why it is time travel stuff that they do a lot, because it has to do with gravity.
Gravity is time. I think, in my opinion, when we think of AI plasma, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, wouldn't that be the plasma that Large Hadron Colliders create? CERN? Wouldn't that be AI plasma?
So you just hit it. This is bringing CERN technology down to the individual level.
Absolutely. So my feeling on this is that it's a hook, and this is just my feeling, but it's the CERN technology using the AI plasma, because most of you know, I've got the little mini CERN 10 miles from my house. And you know how they, Lily, you said they go from the one in Switzerland really isn't the main one. It's the one they want you to focus on, where the one in Texas is much bigger, but there's so many different facilities located throughout the world.
Yes, and actually, when the CERN implodes, explodes, or whatever, it's going to be actually Texas first.
Right.
Because that's the main one.
Yes, it is. That's the
and
one.
This is why, this is the one that actually can take it out. Because even if you believe that the ones in CERN that went a little berserk, but then it's still working, that means then the Texas one is still working.
Oh yeah, and that one's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
But that Texas thing, it was funny. A few days back, I don't know what was it, but I drove on the road in Colorado. I was on a highway, and then I look out, and I have 3 cars in front of me, and all Texas plates. I'm like, what about Texas? And then I drive down the road, pass in a whole different same day, another 2, one after another. And it's very rare to see that many Texas plates. So I was like, what's going on about Texas?
Right.
But yes, that's the biggest CERN in Texas. And if that one goes out, then the rest of them are not going to be capable to finish up the job.
So that, in my opinion, is what these hadron colliders put out would be AI plasma. And we know now that the CERN in Switzerland, the one that everybody monitors, we talked about this the other day about now them running with crystals and lead ions and all those little other tests that they did. They're running for real now. They're running for real. So my thoughts on this is that somehow this is trying to bring, as an example, like, for example, when we talk about bringing the new age people, by WaveX. Remember how we talked about how it's like the fake Earthling program and how it was the WaveX was to suck in a few more souls and harvest a few more souls. So when we talk about intent and integrity, and me getting this vision of this big, huge industrial complex, scientific thing, it makes me think that, is Keshe really behind this, or is he just the front man?
That's a very valid point.
Right. Did he really develop this himself? He may have been in on the development, but could it have been 15? The guy from the Wingmakers technology that's already, his mental capabilities are supposed to be beyond anything that we have ever seen, because he's already integrated the technology, the transhuman part of it. So to me, the Keshe technology fits in with this program as another attempt to, like WaveX, but to pull more people in, but this time using those little pens or those little devices. You're giving yourself a more direct route, because they also are trying to tap into Earth core energy, which is what CERN is doing right now by using the crystal, is to still pull that dark matter out, because they need more energy And in my opinion, it's still all related. It's still all connected. But like you said, it will show itself, or it will, if it's not real. But that's just my take on it. But my true message from Spirit, was that it was Wingmaker's technology. And that I can't second guess that information, because I get it every day. Every time I question it, it's like, nope, 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 nope. You know, so that I have to stand on. Where it's going to go from here, I'm going to be like Ed, I guess, and not, you know, just wait and see, but
be neutral.
Right.
And then, you know, the thing is, if we figure all this out and we move forward, eventually, you know, we can heal everything that's unnatural and, you know, use it if we choose to as humanity. So it could be that. The other thing that I was going to mention about that is that for something like that to be this freely released, that also, you know, gives me a little bit, especially like when a couple of days, some of my friends are starting to get into all these conspiracy theories and all of that stuff. And one of my friends just been learning everything about, you know, cancer and what it is and how they, you know, kill everybody or take to court anybody that's trying to find cure for it. And she couldn't believe that this guy, this doctor, Polish doctor, I don't even remember his name,
Brzezinski.
Yeah, that and she was like, can you believe it? He just came out of a court and the government is taking him to another court in 3 days. This guy is just going from court to court to court to court for having a cancer facility for healing cancer. So when something just so smoothly goes out in the system, but at the same time, I'm saying maybe it is the change. Maybe this is the new. We won't know until it will reveal itself.
Exactly.
And I just wanted to add something to that. Just came up. Maybe it takes that to activate us to become the real human technology within ourselves, the real free energy. Maybe it's like both sides of the pendulum kind of thing. And it's like almost like in the book where there was the dark and the light, and, you know, it just had to have both sides come to activate what is real.
That's an interesting point, and it's a very valid point.
One thing I'm seeing about the Keshe tech is, if I grant it that it could be the real deal, that it could be a learning tool, then I see it kind of as a catch-22. That if, say, we take the free energy, if we see free energy work, that it's demonstrated, then we see that the consumerism paradigm ends. But in order for us to get the technology to work, we have to first end the consumerism paradigm, because we have to come from a place of integrity where we are the free energy. Do you see what I mean? That it's kind of a catch-22, that in order to make the technology work, we have to be coming from a place where we are the free energy, where if we saw it demonstrated and we saw it working, it would prove to us that free energy can solve the consumerism paradigm that we're stuck in. Just a little bit of a catch-22 paradox that I was seeing with it.
Yeah, definitely, Nils. Yeah, exactly.
The only thing that occurs to me about that is that here we are, we're trying to figure it out beforehand. And I think, my opinion is, I don't think it's going to develop anything like what we're postulating. because it's just going to be an organic development of some kind.
Yeah,
I
I guess we're
question.
just gonna wait and see what happens with it. But at the same time, we wanted to talk about it, so because we did have questions about where we stand on that. I personally did, so I thank you everybody for, you know, giving your opinions on that. Did you wanted to add something to the subject, or did you have another question?
I just had a question. I don't, we could talk again. We could talk about this and go back and forth, but I think some really influential things are going to start happening that will shed light a lot on what's going on because of Keshe's intended desire and intention to take his teaching in a whole different direction. Some things that he mentioned today, I had a question for you, Lily, that might help me. And as if the Keshe technology was accessing living light plasma, would there be a function that crystals could perform? Remember when I asked you about electricity?
Mm-hmm.
And you had some flashbacks and remembrances, and other people corroborated about how electricity was a dirty energy and it didn't used to be that way, and it's an overlay and stuff like that.
So what do you mean by can crystals be utilized?
Yeah. If we're accessing a living light plasma reality energy, would crystals have any function in your awareness?
Nope. Crystals, because crystals are how to say that without being negative about crystals, because I know a lot of people love them so much. Crystals do hold sort of a timeless space, but they're also not living light, crystals most of the time hold that astral level memory. So with the living light, you cannot have a crystal. I mean, it's a crystals too, but it's more like not the crystals that we know of here, the hard crystals, not the hard crystals. You understand what I'm saying? Because they're, you know how crystals are just, they're in a time capsule, sort of. It's an information in a time capsule, the regular crystals. That's what they are. It's a whole bunch of information, like a locked in a time capsule. So how is that, can it be that type of energy? Can it be utilized? I don't know.
Okay. I just thought you might have some insight on that. So
Crystals and what their whole deal about that, it's just never been my interest. Maybe I should be. Because you keep asking me about that, and many other people keep asking me about crystals, but I sort of understand what they are, but what's the future of it? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I wasn't really asking for an intellectual understanding of it. I just thought, because you had certain insights and memories about electricity and stuff, and I just wondered if there was any memories from you or anybody you consort with about if crystals might have had some use, like way back before the manipulation happened.
Like Superman.
Like Superman.
I think, there is, as we have a few levels of Akashic record, there's a living light record, then there is the astral record, and then there is the cosmic record. just like with the mind, you know, there's also the records. And I think that crystals do hold the astral level record, and in this reality, the matrix reality record, the crystals do hold on the planet that record right now. What will happen to it as we heal it? Will we reprogram it? And you know, and it will keep on recording the record of the planet. Will it become one with the plasma record, the living light record? I don't know. Will it merge? I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we should move forward. What do you guys think? Because it's kind of late. Because we wanted to talk about Inelia's book, Inelia Benz book. And before we move forward, I sort of want to express why we all felt that it's important to talk about that book. So I'm going to start sort of from the end of the book and say right away that the end of the book is what sort of triggered this, oh, okay, we got to read it, because what she describes in the end of the book is what, you know, we've been talking about for last year, about what I've named it Earth Timeline. She named it a new element, which is, I like that name, for a new element or new creation or new timeline. And so this is why we wanted to discuss that, so we can figure it out what she's talking about. And at the same time, it is very exciting that, you know, there's all this different information that's coming out about Earth's timeline. And so of course it's exciting. So who wants to start on this? Maybe Jeff?
Sure. I posted it in Earthsaw group. Got some interesting reactions from people, but I'm at the healing point, as a bunch of us are, that I've asked Spirit to know the unknowable, and to show me the tools to help clear my subconscious programming so that I can be the observer, as the book paints the picture of how valuable that is. And even though we got to the new element in the Earth timeline, there were so many pieces in the book that explained things that have happened in my life through that psychic assassin, their methods, and how I got distracted, or how I made it through things by choosing not to choose, and not believing something could affect me when it probably should have. So there's so many parts and pieces about being a blip in this matrix, and not living in fear of being a blip. Asking yourself, are you even a blip, or are you living in the reaction state? And then it goes into getting consent. This matrix is getting consent from us in all different directions. But if you just don't agree, you don't have a contract with this matrix. And that's very powerful. I have many, many other points, but
start with just few, and I know Neil's got a lot to say about it. Trudy wants to say something.
Yeah.
Sure. So we'll just, you know, the rest of our conversation, we just can sort of maybe go through the points and see what you guys feel about it, and questions and all of that stuff. So Niels, do you want to talk about it a little bit more?
Just to talk about what Jeff was just saying about being a blip. I think you're a vulnerable blip when you're engaging on the mental level, like what we were talking about before, the interference, the veil in the unconscious, that if you're dealing in there, even if you're fighting for the good guys, as long as you're fighting, if you're that kind of a blip, I think you're a vulnerable blip, and that the assassins are going to come after you. I've been a very evasive blip in my life, and I think it's because I try to just express myself. I'm not ever trying to fight anything that's out there. I'm not trying to prove anything wrong. I'm just creating from my own self and expressing that. So I'm a blip, but generally nobody comes after me, and I'm pretty happy about that. So I found it interesting to read the book, and I've heard from so many people that they get attacked psychically, and it's something that has been very, very rare for me. So I just wanted to add that I do think that it's the creativity thing. And before, Lily, you were talking about, we have love on one side, we have fear on the other side. That's kind of our big two opposites. And we stand in the middle. And the position we stand in is the creativity. That's what brings love and fear together, is creativity. Because it's creativity that it basically bridges love and fear. We create out of love, and we do it in order to face our most basic fear, which is the fear of the unknown. Every fear comes down to a fear of the unknown. And basically, you can prove that to yourself, because the only way to overcome a fear is to know it, to face it. That's the only way to ever overcome it. So fear at its base is the fear of the unknown. And creativity is the only way to go into the unknown. That's what I'd like to say for now. So I'll pass it off to whoever wants to speak next.
That was beautifully said. Anybody else? Justin, would you like to give your opinion?
It was I didn't get a whole lot from the book, but at the end, where the two ends of the spectrum are integrated, that made sense in my mind as far as 0 point goes. And so it helped me to understand a little bit better 0 point, and not having to choose either the positive or negative, and that they're both valid, and to be able to recognize that in ourselves too. So that's all I have to say about it.
That's a good thing to say, because this is what I think. It's almost like there was no terminology for it, but she put it really nicely, how, the both sides are valid, and they're both misunderstood within themselves. People were used, and they were thought they were doing whatever they were doing, but because they had been in duality themselves. So the both sides, the positive side of this timeline, we had so many people trying to be positive and bring a positive change and bring a positive timeline into the planet, which seemed to be like really good idea. And that's what they wanted to do, but because of their own extreme duality, they were trying to do that through exterminating the negative side, so that's why it was always this light warriors, all of that stuff, and they kept this friction energy going and going and going, because the people that are involved in here on the planet fighting this light versus dark game, they haven't understood this new element, or they weren't even aware that it is possible or that it exists.
I'd like to say something, Lily. It's in reference to what Niels was talking about the blip thing and being vulnerable to the psychic assassins or being seen at all. I always called it living under the radar, which is another version of the same thing, not being seen. And yet, it's not like you don't exist. It's just, you're just basically almost like invisible to them, a third way, if you will. Not positive, not negative, as a duality. You know, I'm for this and I'm against that, but something different, which is basically operating from what a lot of you call the 0 point, or in the middle, or in a sense of neutrality. Somehow or other, you don't register on their detection devices most of the time. When you get drawn into it, you do. I mean, I've had my bumps up against the wall a time or 10, but most of the time not. And like Neil says, people talk about headaches and all kinds of attacks and all other things too. And I'm sitting here like, what the hell's wrong with me? I don't ever get that stuff. and I'm kind of listening to you talk, and I'm thinking, well, I think I know the answer, and I'm just trying to share a little bit about it, you know, from a personal perspective, if you will. Okay, that's all I really wanted to say. Thanks.
What if, we're talking about somehow, being invisible to this, because the positive and the negative was so busy fighting each other and looking for each other that they completely missed the whole Earth timeline activating, and a whole bunch of people being Earthlings and being in their core, because they weren't looking into the core of humanity. They weren't looking for that. They were looking to find the negative, were looking to find the positives that were giving them problems and eliminate those, and the other way around, you know. And that was a war that we were not even part of it.
That's exactly right. That's another version. We're talking the same language, just expressing it, you know, differently, but effectively we see eye to eye. I think all four of us that have commented, at least four. Okay, thank you.
I have a little different take on what I got from the book. First of all, about Inelia, ever since she came on the scene, the one thing that I absolutely loved and got from her was how she dealt with fear. She had a very strong teaching platform about identifying fear, and then how she dealt with it by allowing it to magnify and get bigger and bigger. And it very much dovetailed with how I've dealt with fear throughout my life. Instead of pushing it away, you know, accepting it so that I can deal with it. However, when I read, and I saw this in Inelia's book, some of these points that I saw that were so strong that she dealt with in her earlier years seemed to be really well placed in her book. And I saw that she used to be really big on relationships as well. And I saw that throughout the book, the love relationship and all of that. However, as I listened to the book, and I just went through it once, and I knew that since Jeff posted it and you had asked for our response to it, so I was kind of reading it not because I wanted to read it or get into it, but with an awareness of how it was affecting me. And what occurred to me is that this whole book seemed to me to be a mental attempt, or an attempt to create a mental version of Earth timeline that people could accept. In other words, instead of just living in the now and allowing Earth timeline to develop, there's giving a framework that people can look and say, oh, this is what it is. And at the end of the book, where there was the Adam and Eve symbology and the open door symbology, and stuff. For me, that it was very reminiscent of the yin yang thing, and the trying to bring together of polarities didn't seem proper to me, because it seemed like we don't want to bring them together, but we just want to find the point between them, the 0 point.
So there was no transformation step and transforming that positive and negative into the new element that is Earth timeline.
And the open door thing seemed to me just, it's one of those tricks that a lot of people have used through the ages, leaving the door, and it just prompts people to want to walk into it, to go into, and they would be walking into this whole mental experience that had been developed and presented and emotionally responded to by the reader, and so forth and so on.
Okay, so you went into sort of when you read it and you went, wait a minute, this is something here is little or as we call it, maybe got triggered by it or something.
Well, here's the thing.
I have that too, and so I wanted to talk about that as well. So should we, since you stepped into it, move into that and talk about the triggers, or is anybody would like to express what their sort of, what is the, I guess for better, I don't know if I can find a better word, but what is the positive that you got out of book? What was good?
Explaining the collective consciousness, I thought throughout the book was done pretty well. How we are right now in this physical, we've consented or agreed in part to the collective consciousness. And isn't that's a tough balance, because we want to change the collective consciousness, but for everybody, but is that even possible? Will there be a split, as the book details a bit? Because some people are caught in that and they're not ready. But the book really goes into the more observers observing this affects the past, present, and future. And here we are talking about 0 point and being the observers. How are we affecting this? It's an interesting part of the book.
I think to affect the collective, the only effective way you can observe is to observe yourself and the reality that you're experiencing. You can't just observe objectively the collective or all this stuff that's going on out there. You have to observe it, what's going on in your experience. And that's how you can transmute and change, or do your, and you'll be changing your reality, but you will be part of the collective. But you can't consciously say, I'm trying to change the collective. It just, that's not possible. But you are, by your own experience. And that's what I saw lacking in the book. What I saw being developed, to me, had a real, it lacked reality, the sense of reality. It seemed like a picture was being painted. A movie set was being constructed that people could see and experience mentally, and then that's what they would be drawn to walk into, and it would all be a mental acceptance and stuff, and it totally skirts, from my perspective, it totally skirts this whole perspective of your personal experience.
Right.
Yes.
I got triggered right out of the get-go on the first read. So I'm joining somebody else's creation?
Yeah.
Okay, since you said that, I was going to say, so I have to add that that part, what you had just mentioned, and when I got triggered the most and ask a very strong question, is this a mental creation? Because she says in it that this alien or whatever, this consciousness, that first of all, it was not real, because she's telling you right away that they can construct reality. Okay, so what does that tell? They can construct holographic reality, so they can construct anything you want. What is that? That's mental level creation. That's first one. And then she said it when she said it, that there's going to be a program, basically, that's going to be sent out to human beings that read this book, to affect their conscious and unconscious mind. So the change that she was bringing was bringing the change into conscious and unconscious. And this is why I also wanted to talk a little bit more in the beginning, what is unconscious mind? That's programming. So is this just another program?
In my opinion, it was absolutely a program. And I had the feeling the whole way through the book that this was not a real experience for her. And several things added to that. I won't go through all the details. However, I am open to the fact that if it was a real experience for her, I know I heard somebody say in our group that, or somebody say that they remembered when she went down to that area. Actually, Inelia went there to interview somebody, so that maybe she did have some kind of experience here. But if this was in any way a real experience, to me, it was a case of she was drawing unto herself that which she was. In other words, she was creating her reality. That's the whole feeling that I got.
Okay, Trudy?
Sure. Yeah, there's just so many things. Talking about the triggers, I try not to read the comments. I try to come up with my own comment through spirit, through 0 point, before I read anything, because it can affect people, cloud their judgment, things like that. Anyway, it was just really interesting. As I listened more, then she started to point out the triggers and everything like that, and that you'll start to feel dizzy, and you might start to all those different things that she was saying that might make you stop listening to it. And it was pretty cool that way. And she just kept saying, like she said, that it was supposed to be viewed or listened to as a like not in a real context, but it was actually just to be listened to as fiction. Yeah. So that's the way I had to really keep it in order to not have the judgments and stuff like that as I was listening to it. But it was interesting because it really made me look at myself, and it made me kind of fit into different aspects of the characters in a way. Like I always relate to things, how is this affecting me? And I go into myself and clear things, and it was just interesting. But the thing that came out the most for me is that there's a little thing, every single friend and relative has a higher self, and if they came to play the victim aggressor cycle, there's nothing I can do to get them out of it except disagree to play in that cycle with them. So that's something that really made me realize that, because everybody's worrying about all these things going on, and that we really don't have any control over other people's emotions and things. So We just don't have to play in that game. I don't know. It's just it's interesting.
Yeah, I like that point too, that you can acknowledge other people's games. You don't want to go into that game, but you can point it out to them without joining or reacting to it. Maybe that's humility, or
No, that's just total awareness.
Yeah.
If you're aware of the game, yeah, you don't have to join it, but being aware of it gives you total vision of it, and you can, if the situation warrants it, you can describe it. I wanted to add, Trudy just triggered an awareness in me when she said that the book, Trudy, you said that, and I don't remember this, but you said that the book itself said this book is to be read as a fiction.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Lily, that's exactly how it affects the subconscious. When a person reads a work of fiction and doesn't accept it as reality, yet the ideas get lodged in the subconscious. That's exactly how that happens, in my opinion.
So it's a programming, right?
Yeah. Earlier when you said it was supposed to, didn't you say it was supposed to affect the
Yes, she said it. She
consciously?
stated it. I've re-listened to it a couple of times, and she said it that I don't remember. Did she call it a wave or something that for the people that read it, the book, would they gonna their unconscious and conscious mind will be affected by it.
And that is exactly what you started this whole conversation describing, Lily. And where does that subconscious that is being affected reside? It's in that linear timeline, that astral overlay of the mental realm of the chakras, so to speak. And that's what that book is addressed to. That's what you're talking about right now. So,
but could it be that? Could it be that it's just terminology?
I don't think so. My feeling, I think it's that clear. But what, like I say, the way you described and explained in the conversation that followed about that mental block, that our subconscious being the overlay, the astral overlay of our soul memory, which is not the true soul memory, but the overlay memory. That's what that thing is involving us in, following in circles and circles again. Okay, here's another mental picture to go after and follow into. That's the point I really wanted to make, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, who was that?
That was me. Go ahead, Ed. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to reiterate my awareness that when somebody reads a book of fiction, but it has concepts and ideas in it, they don't relate to them consciously as a reality, but yet those ideas get embedded in the subconscious. So anyway.
So isn't that the point of her book, is to create this program or the idea, or to seed the people with the idea that this is the possibility?
Yes.
To walk through.
Yes.
But what we're talking about is exactly what I do, right? I use ideas and I try and seed all of your subconsciouses as well. That's what I'm trying to do. I always couch it in a framework of fiction as well. And my take on Inelia, if I just view the person and her information, the question I ask is Inelia herself being sincere? My feeling on that, the answer I get is that yes, Inelia believes in what she's doing. And what I mean by that is I don't think that she's actively trying to deceive anyone. She's not set out to lay a trap for others to fall into. I don't believe that that's part of Inelia's intent. Now that's just my own take on it. But what I see she's done is she's given us a tool. And as always, it's up to us as to what we do with it. We can treat it as a mental trap, or we can approach it creatively and use it as a springboard for, as we've said, it's an open door. Well, I don't see that Inelia has created what's beyond that open door. That's something that we can run with and create ourselves. She's just presented us with the doorway, is the way that I see it.
I absolutely agree with you, Neil. She's totally sincere, in my opinion, and always has been. And but I also think that 99% of the people in this world are sincere. You know, very, very few consciously are trying to deceive. But that being said, I also agree with you what you said about the book. You can take it for what it's worth in your own, what the book is worth for you. Because I know when I read it, I said I had this overall awareness that I was supposed to respond to it, you know, what I thought it was about and stuff like that. But as I read it, I did get, there were some parts of it, like I mentioned to you, the fear thing. When she dealt with that, I remember, and it brought back pleasant memories of how she used to, on her website, have all these ways of dealing with fear and teachings and stuff like that. And I remembered how much it blessed me and how much I agreed with it and so forth and so on. And I saw to see those things and her putting those, personifying and making those things into a story in her book. I really enjoyed that.
Yes, and that's very good point. Is because this could be also she's going through something that she, through her own realization, or she's stepping into her timeline, and she is expressing that in whatever way, in whatever terminology she has, and whatever her creative ability is allowing her to present that process of.
I think that is an excellent point.
Because, you know, what I did is I just talked crazy, you know, with a whole bunch of words that didn't make any sense. You know, it's just each person is on this path to experience. And so I think, you know, the whole story, she came to that realization. And if we to take that this is what she realized that there is a whole different timeline that happened here. And she's not the only one. We're all surprised by this, and we all had to find our way into that mental understanding of it. Yes, we felt it, but like for me in the beginning, in 2012, 2013, to find words, and I've spoke of this so many times, to find words that would match what I felt was very difficult. And I understand that because, you know, I don't have a full on English, but it was not just that. It was more to that. There was more difficulty to that because the concept was very different than, you know, light versus dark. It was just very different. So, and all you have is the words that have meanings that it's attached to it, to those words, that is light versus dark. So how do you use those words? And so her way to putting this into creative sort of form, and expressing her realization, I think it's great, but there's also other possibilities what could have been happening. I mean, I said this before, and this is just my opinion. It could have been just an ayahuasca trip. And, you know, which is, I'm not judging anybody. That's, everybody's doing what they need to do. And even if that trip, and if that was the case, but what she got from that is that there is a different choice than constant friction between light and dark. you know, even if that helped her to come to this realization, it's wonderful. And I think it's gonna be, you know, we got excited about it because there is, you know, there's more people. I mean, I understand the excitement. I'm probably maybe a little overreacted, being too excited, but I'm always excited. There was a time in my life when I didn't have you guys to talk about, and now I do. So I'm excited about it because there's somebody else who went through some similar realizations or going through a similar understandings, or you know, it's just, maybe that's her way, but what she's gonna do with this realization, will she embody it fully?
I don't know if she's really to that realization yet. There were a few things in the beginning of the book that kind of stood out to me, which I guess would actually go into the subconscious mind also. But when she was defining the characters, I think we saw Ramona as the dark side and Chad as the light side. But she does mention in the beginning of the second part that Chad was something that one doesn't really want to see, that he was a distraction. So to me, it was like, is that a distraction? The good part is the distraction. That kind of bothered me a little, and I can't figure out where she was coming with that. And then a little bit later, after that, Ramona says to her, you know, I'm sorry I took you to see Chad, or that I expected you to heal him. I know you don't do stuff like that. So was that a little key that should have or was supposed to go into the subconscious also? That's just me throwing thoughts out there.
You know what rattled me is we don't know why Ramona was a blip for Chad to, you know, for Chad, the psychic assassin, to go after Ramona in the first place. We knew Chad was going to do good things for community.
But that just tell you that the astral levels and astral timeline is split into positive and negative. So for the positive side, they're looking at the negative side and looking at the blips and looking at those that have power to do stuff. So the light warriors gonna go into astral planes and gonna go after that person in astral level. That's how psychic assassins work. This is what they do. They fight in astral levels. That's another thing, is she called that a psychic assassin, because what that implies, a psychic level, it means astral level. So that's another thing, sort of another piece that is saying, okay, wait a minute, this could have been possibly a trip to astral levels through, you know, she alludes in the book that, you know, she had a medicine in her body, plant medicine. So then, you know, it just kind of almost there right in front of your face that it's very possible that it's ayahuasca trip. So what happened on ayahuasca trip? It's astral level. But it could have been a whole different thing. Maybe part of it is, and the whole another part could be a real truth and the real story with some realizations from whatever that was. But I doubt that that book is real. It's not real. Even though when she's sort of saying that it's novel, meaning that it's not really a novel, I think it is. I think it is. There's very little there that sort of could be real. And then the rest of it is creative. So it's her own process of integrating herself maybe, or understanding or integrating these two timelines, that we all have to come to that realization eventually that those two timelines were working against each other, and that's not where humanity needs to go. And so we need to let go of those timelines.
I got something on that one. We got to look back on this overall scheme of thing of the ages and the cycle repeating itself, from going from the extreme dark or negative timeline as we've described it amongst ourselves. And what's the goal of the AI or the the inorganic intelligence? They also want a positive to occur. It's part of the game plan, and introducing a third way between positive and negative is a way out, and actually falls within their game plan too. But it isn't the Earth timeline; it's their copy of the Earth timeline. Hence, when that opened door, to me anyway, I got to a point where I was thinking it's almost like another savior program without a named savior this time. It was like, you fill in the blank. You know, whatever you describe to yourself is the ideal situation. That's the door you're going to go into. Well, geez, even in the Bible, I do recall it being said, within my Father's house there's many mansions. That's all that's required. Just walk through the door on hope and faith that you've found that way through to the better place. And of course, when you get there, it probably will be pretty nice. I hear tell that the Atlantean, Lemurian times, and maybe prior to that, I heard about a place called Mu, that the way they described it, it was pretty damn nice. But as far as I'm concerned, those places, maybe they were part of the original timeline. I don't know. I'm not technically capable of describing that for sure. But what I'm thinking is what she's pointing to is like an overlay. And it would be the positive timeline overlay. And the way through is to, yes, discard the positive, negative crap that we've been going through for all of this time, because we are at the end of the age. And their hope is to create a new age, a positive age. What do they call it? The gold, or the golden age. Well, the golden age is going to be pretty nice. So, even the ones that aren't on the Earth timeline, as we talk about, it's going to be way better for them too, if they make it through. Anyway, that's basically the thing I'm trying to interject or throw out there, is that, yeah, I think it's astral. I really do, for what it's worth.
Did anybody look at I Fly Southwest and look at a ticket to Costa Rica? Yeah. I think this book is in layers, and we didn't get that trigger.
That will happen on the mental level.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a tell, in my opinion.
Please explain, Jeff, because I don't even see it now.
Yes, I would like for you to extend on that, Jeff, please.
Well, there was a whole bunch of paragraphs about Costa Rica being an anchor point, right? A space outside of, a place outside of space and time that was absent fear of invasion, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And it was an invitation for people reading the book, reading it at that layer, for whatever reason.
That's the myth.
To Costa Rica.
That's funny.
Well, my opinion on that,
I've been wanting to move to Costa Rica for like last 15 years.
Really?
No, Jeff, I saw that immediately too. As I was reading that, I was aware of that exact same thing that you brought up. But to me, that's the total mental level. People who are involved in that, escaping to another country to get away from things. And
it's a savior.
Yeah. And they will respond on that level.
Mm-hmm. But this group clearly didn't. So that's interesting to me.
Yeah. I had something to add to the whole book. Lily, you said the book, was not real. That's the whole thing I was trying to get across too. And I didn't bring up several of the points that I saw, but the conversations that she wrote down between people, they were not real they were scripted. They were all designed to bring a point to bear. Those conversations had no, to me,
no organic flow to it.
exactly. They had no.
It was just a release of information in a
To get across a
script.
point.
Mm-hmm.
And and also throughout the book, I saw what little I know of Inelia's life through her teachings through the years and things she's emphasized, and watching her and hearing her talk and stuff like that. So many of those were not just included, but they were expounded upon in the book. It was as if the book was an outgrowth of her own experience. And that's another thing that just pointed out to me, this is not some real thing.
Doesn't she say in the book, though, that, I think it was in the second part, doesn't she say somewhere in the book that she thought the story would bring an influx of people to Costa Rica?
Most likely.
Yeah, I think she did. I think she did.
I doubt that it will, though.
If that happens, I don't like it, because that means that the prices will go up and stuff like that.
I wanted to, unless there's some other specific things on the book, I would like to go back to what Lily said about how Inelia was sincere. And we have to learn to accept her for her journey and where she's at and what she's going through. Because when you said that, I wanted to say, I feel that's very important. A few weeks ago, maybe months at this point, you talked about how we're transitioning from personal into collective healing. And that's always in the back of my mind. And I know I kind of said I don't feel like I'm there yet. But I do believe this whole thing of seeing people for where they're at and not putting them in a box, not judging them, accepting it, being aware of it, being able to identify with parts that you do see truth in, and being able to not identify with the parts that you don't resonate with. I think that's a big part. That's our part in this collective healing.
Yes.
And not only with just people like Inelia, but everybody. Yes. We begin our view of people, not attaching to them, not boxing them, not saying they're astral, they're this or that, and separating ourselves, but viewing it, accepting it, not accepting everything they say, but accepting them for their journey.
Exactly. And much gratitude to, we constantly encourage people in our group. We encourage people to share their experiences with others, share their realizations, because we're all new to this path, and we are all going to be creating it together. So, I am in a lot of gratitude to people like that take that risk into expressing what their realizations are, because there is that risk that they're going to be perceived in a negative way, that they're going to be judged, that they're going to be, and so that's why I said it here from the very beginning. No judgment. All we wanted to do is learn from her experience, what she realized, and we are just talking about what can we learn from it. And no way am I wanted to judge her for whatever, you know, she did. I'm actually very thankful that she's sharing with people this, because like you guys, like Trudy, you said, you know, you read something, you always put yourself into it, and you perceive it from your own awareness. And for me, I'm in much gratitude, because I myself made a lot of mistakes and things like that, and there was things that I was wrong about and all of that stuff. But at the same time, if I was afraid too much that it will be ridiculed and all of that stuff, then I would have said a word about it. So to me, I see that, and I'm in a lot of gratitude to Inelia that she puts that out, and she, you know, and now we're moving into collective level, and you're right, Ed, we are moving into that collective level, but how are we going to do it, and how are we going to bring that out into humanity, so there is that spark, so they can go within their own spark. And that's why when Neil says it's got to be a creativity, and so now more than ever we need to put out this creative sort of material out there, so people can start even have the ideas that there is third choice. And like we talk about it, you know, when this subject is talked about, people cannot unhear something. They've heard it. Some of it will stay with them. Could it be that there is some kind of program attached to it? Sure. It's very possible, but we're going to look at it, and we're going to take from that what we need to learn. And you know, the fact that there is talk about this, and then consider the fact that who she wrote the book for. She wrote it for the people that followed her. They followed her through her path, through her own realizations of who she was, what she's here to do. And now this was just another layer of that, you know, letting go of that ascension or light versus dark. And the people that are going to be buying her book, they haven't heard of it. They haven't heard of Earth Timeline, you know, because they're still on that ascension path, you know, and light versus dark. So in a way, she didn't say much about it. Maybe she wants it also to soften up for the people that are going to be reading the book, so they don't get the information overload. Oh, you know, what do we do about this? So it's gentle to them. So, and for us, because we're sort of, you know, have some ideas already what this is, and have been experiencing this new timeline. So for us, we have a whole different perspective on it than most people that will read her book.
Was there a program in the book? Yes. You know, you said there's a program, but we don't have to be afraid of that program, because it's not, even though even if that program affects people who read the book, so what? It's not reality. It's a program. And even if it affects people at a certain level, we don't have to be afraid of what that's going to affect them at, because Earth Timeline is the true reality. And that's where all the true power lays. And somebody who's affected by a program in that book, yeah, they may be mentally affected, but they're going to run up into so many walls as the Earth Timeline develops that they'll be corrected. And what I'm saying is, part of our response to seeing like a program in the book, or even if seeing somebody else present something that's really astral program level and stuff like that, we don't need to get triggered by it or fear it, because a lot of our triggering is, you know, oh, we're thinking, oh my God, people can't be believing that. Well, maybe people are going to believe it, but so what? Because what's really going on, like you say, the reality that's happening is this new thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. And the thing is, for us now, as we trying to heal as much as possible our own selves, so we gain that core strength to us. You know, if there's triggers in there and there's program that trigger you, look at it for what it is.
Yeah.
Why? It's bringing that up to your attention, to your mental attention. So there is some clearing that needs to be done in that way, you know, in that specific subject. What is it, you know? And in a way, the way we learn sometimes, you know, that like I was talking in the beginning, how it's for me, I'm gonna talk for myself, the pieces sort of float in together themselves this time, and it's almost like you don't have to put so much mental power into connect the dots. They almost just sort of flow together themselves in a lot of times. Once it, you know, when you have that intent to say, okay, like Jeff was saying, I want to know the unknown. You know, I had done that once a while back, and then I was like, I couldn't find words for 3 days to anything. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to scale back a little bit and take a little steps here, because when you ask with your pure intent the universe to give you answer, it will start rearranging your life or arranging things in your external reality that will give you the answer. It will. It might take a little time, but it will. So all of this on Earth's timeline, everything in the future is unknown to us. But I like also what you're saying, Ed, that we cannot react in fear to the unknown. Because if we do, that's going to throw us off balance. And so being afraid of little program in the book, you know, what throws you in the fear, first of all, because it's all about us. It is our reaction. You know, we have talked about this, how we react. And we have done this in the group. I've done it on my personal wall. When people have mental breakdowns, you know, allow them say what they say. When they say their program, allow them say what they say, because it is their reality. They're just expressing what. And when they get angry about it, they're not angry about it because you are bringing that up. They might think it is your fault, but it is them. It is their own body. It's their own mental body that's reacting. You know, and again, that we've been so trained to be that victimizer, you know. So I see a lot of people, you know, that working through the healing, that victim reality within themselves, will sort of make mistakes and go into the opposite direction, and they'll be very aggressive towards whatever it is that brings out that sort of that mental level, because victim and victimizer are one and the same energy in friction. So when they are working through that, they can very easily step into the aggressor role. It just takes a split of a second and the person can be there, you know. And then but it's their path. You can just say something to say, hey, you know, there's a little bit more here on the middle, and do not have that violent reaction to something that is not perfect or not Earth's timeline, because Earth's timeline is new. We creating it as we go in the now moment. So, and are we completely in our creative power? No, we're just starting to even have any kind of mental understanding. And yes, we have some experiences, but we are not there yet to fully understand how we can create on this timeline. So it's all now moment. So if I am reading something like this and it's triggering me, or it's pushing me or forcing me into that extreme duality, okay, am I in, if I fall from, you know, a victim into an aggressor mode, am I in the now moment? I'm not.
No way.
You know, because I'm dealing with past and that cycle, because it's a matrix cycle, because it's gonna bring you back to victim again. So and we are gonna fall into that trap over and over again, because all these layers have been in this enclosed loop. Past creates the future, and then you are completely unconscious in the now moment, and you just go through triggers of the past triggering you in the now to create the exact same future, because it wants to loop that cycle and bring it back exactly to where you came from. It won't let you go free, and that's why we create unconsciously. But we're just learning how to be conscious in the now moment and how to consciously create this timeline. So yeah, there's going to be all these things that will have to balance themselves out within each individual, and with us too, you know, with every one of us. That, I guess that's what that's my way in trying to say that you know, let's just, for this talk of ours, not to be taken as we're judging Inelia. We're just learning, we're trying to understand, and we are very grateful that she had shared this experience with humanity, because we've been trying to figure out how we can speak about it more and more and more, so this concept of New Earth timeline is present in our collective consciousness. That's why I am speaking about it, is because I want to bring this concept into collective consciousness. But I'm not, you know, I'm trying to be very careful not to say, well, this is where it's going and this is what you need to choose. I'm just saying this is a new concept, and then every person
And we
has
don't know where
to
it's
figure it
going.
out. Yeah, and we have no idea where it's going to go. And we can't predict on it. So, but at least that choice is available, or some kind of concept that people can at least a little bit understand that there is. And once a person realizes there might be slight chance that there is another choice, this is the awakening of the spirit. Then their own spirit, if they have that, their own spirit will do the work. Their own spirit will present them in life with that, because it's going to be in their consciousness somewhere. And the spirit is very much wants to be the creator. So no matter how messed up that person is, their spirit still wants to express itself in its integrity, in its beauty, and express it, because that's why we have the spirit, because it wants to create and express. So even that little bit, or whatever this is, maybe there's programs attached to it, but if it works for somebody and it ignites their spirit to look for that third choice, to pay attention to how they feel, to neutralize their own positive and negative within themselves, then it's beautiful.
One thing I'd like to make a comment about is the very fact that Inelia's book exists for the ones that may just be entrained into the new program to go to the positive timeline. They didn't know there was a third option themselves, not really until now. And I take that as a sign personally that something's going on behind the scenes that I can't see, but I can feel this change. That has to be in the mental realm now, even from the AI point of view. 2 years ago, it wasn't there. 1 year ago, to my knowledge, it wasn't there. Not from the AI point of view. You were talking a year ago, but they weren't. Now they are, which tells me that from their perspective, something's changed, that this has to be put into the new age community, the people that listen to Inelia and people who are one way or another tapped into it. That message will spread within the community. There's a third way. Now, what that third way is, we're talking about a specific form, and the Earth timeline as opposed to the astral timeline. They're going to come at it, in my opinion, from the astral timeline's presentation, and that's what I think we'll probably see show itself in various places all over. But I do wanted to make that point. Not trying to put down anything that Inelia is trying to do from her own perspective, but I keep looking at the larger picture, and I say, yeah, but the AI is still there. What are they doing? And I see the appearance of this book as a manifestation, an external manifestation of an aspect of what they're doing. It's put out there by them ultimately, whether she realizes it or not. Okay, thank you.
From my perspective, what I see Inelia doing with this book is exactly what I would encourage anyone and everyone to do, is take your life experiences, the most gnarly and outrageous things that have happened in your life, the deepest, biggest concepts, and put them together in a creative way that gains understanding for yourself, sharing it with the world. Like, to me, what Inelia has done is exactly what I am trying to encourage everybody to do. To me, she's a perfect example of what I'd like to see. Will everybody get everything right? Nope. Most people, when they create something like that, they're going to get a whole bunch of stuff wrong. I myself get a whole bunch of stuff wrong. But it's the actual process of what she's done, the creativity of it, the telling of the story from her own experience, how that experience actually unfolded. That's for Inelia to know. But I just want to make the point that just looking at one human being to another human being, what she's done is exactly what I like to see people do.
If anything, if people get the idea that they need to investigate their own positive versus negative and look into it deeper, if everything else just, people don't get, but if they get that they themselves can figure their own and reconcile and resolve their own time track, their own positive versus negative time track, that's an invitation for other person to go in. If people take this book as just an invitation for a human being to go within, then that's huge value. Anybody else wants to add anything? No? Everybody quiet. Linda, would you like to say anything?
No, you guys have pretty much covered everything.
Okay. Did you want to say anything about Inelia's book?
No, I agree with the premise that it was her inner journey of reconciling the light and the dark within herself. Neil summed it up fairly nicely. Actually, several of you did. We all have to take this inner journey and reconcile these parts, embrace them, and heal them, love them, the good and the bad. And I've always thought that there was a third choice. And she's bringing that out into the collective for whatever audience she does touch. That's
Yes.
about it. But yeah, otherwise I agree pretty much with everything that's been said here.
And that's a very good thing. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do, talking about it, recording this conversation, having the group, and talking about this so we can bring this out into collective, the third.
That's what Earth Soul Group's all about, is healing, reconciling the opposites, the polarities, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Everybody said what they needed to say. So should we wrap it up then? Okay. Then thank you everybody for joining. And oh boy, we're been at it for 3 hours. I really appreciate everybody's time. Trudy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for. I appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. Betsy, thank you. Justin, Niels, always Maurice, Jeff, Ed, Linda, thank you so much for spending so much time with me. I appreciate your effort and all your opinions, and I love these talks. So many aha moments for myself. So now I'm just gonna go and process.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks. It was great.
Yep. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
All right, night.